I talked about with Consuelo.
Yeah.
So since Consuelo is here, we should make use of Consuelo and focus on health in our hands. Tomorrow, when we do interactions, I can focus on this one. And if anybody has anything for health in our hands, then we can, review it. Otherwise, I would suggest that to see if there's any comments from anybody regarding health in our hands, or if Consuelo has some ideas she wants to present, then we can allow people to fill in the table with respect to health in our hands. That's what I suggested Consuelo for a lesson plan for today.
Right. And I did want to share, so I will put this in the chat. So one place you might want to start, or another suggestion that you can look at, is the storyline. So the storyline gives kind of a broad, well, not broad, it gives a whole picture of the Health in Our Hands unit. And so that might be a place to and gives some driving questions for each of the smaller learning sets within the unit. And then it outlines the target performance expectations, which are the standards. And if you click on those links, you'll be able to, it also gives you that breakdown of what the scientific practice is, what's the disciplinary core idea, what's the cross-cutting concept. These are this here, selected target performance expectations, is the, oh, thank you, Joe, that I'm highlighting here. That's for the unit. These are the really main performance, the standards that we're covering. So those are where it's underlined blue are hot links that will take you to the next generation science standards, and it breaks it down really well to what are the so for example, this learning, this performance expectation is middle school life science 1-3. Use argument supported by evidence for how, which is helpful, is this assessment boundary, which helps outline, it kind of gives you, so students should know these things, but it gives you boundaries where, for example, assessment does not include the mechanism of one body system independent of others. And so assessment is limited to the circulatory, excretory, digestive, respiratory, muscular, and nervous, excuse me, nervous systems. So they're not having to delve into it maybe as deeply as some teachers have done in the past. But then it really outlines what the science and engineering practice is. And these are actually also hot links that you can click on, and it will give you more information about that practice. It tells you the disciplinary core idea, right? So it'll take you to the framework, which you can download, and it will provide even more detailed information. So these are all pieces of information that can help you think about, what are my goals for what I want teachers to be able to do. It's not only what the students, but thinking about, if these are the goals that the students need to, we want the students to reach, how do I help the teacher get to an understanding of, let's say, engaging an argument from evidence. You have a disciplinary core idea, which is structure and function. And here it gives you a brief explanation of it. But again, just as Joe showed us before, you can click on that link and it will take you to the framework and to that piece of structure and function. And it will outline for you, what does structure and function mean? What are they saying when they for structure and function, and you can look at, it even shows you by grade band. So if you're focusing on elementary, it tells you by the end of grade 2, by the end of grade 5, and here, the middle school says by the end of grade 8. So it gives you an idea of where students should be coming in with knowledge and where they should be in middle school. And it also gives you a direction of, by the end of 12th grade, where students are going. So these are all really helpful pieces that can help guide you as you're creating the professional learning plan for your teachers. Some of the other things I think are important. Joe, could we go back to the slide? Or did I give a link to my slide? I'm sorry, I didn't give a link to my
This
slide.
is not a slide, this is, you just gave him this.
Yes, I'm sorry, here. So I just made a couple of slides for us to, I'm sorry, I thought I put the link to the,
No, you put the link to this, Consuelo.
yep. Okay, here's
I can stop sharing if you want.
a link to, sure. I just made a few slides today because, so one of the things that, Dr. Joe and I have talked about is it's really important. What we don't want to be here just talking at you for the whole 2 hours. The idea is that we engage with one another and we work together to create a plan. So I don't want to be talking for the 2 hours. I want this to be a dialogue. So the first slide we just talked about, these are some of the places that might be helpful to begin in planning is the storyline. I think some things that you may need to think about on slide 3 as you're doing your planning is how long do I actually have with the teachers? So for Health in Our Hands, we typically try to have 2 full days and then 2 half days with the teachers to really be able to delve into the unit with them. So we usually have 2 full days and 2 half days. With teachers. What is their expertise? Where are you starting with the teachers? And I think that was one of the things that is on the planning sheet, is thinking about what is the expertise that teachers come with. So, you know, in some of our planning, we work with in-service teachers. Oops. We work with in-service teachers. Are they, so thinking about, you know, are they in service and how long have they been teaching? If you're, and also thinking about, are you working with teacher leaders, or are you building a group of teachers who are then going to go out and support other teachers? Or are you working with teachers that are not necessarily teacher leaders, but are in-service teachers who have a background in life science? And how strong is that background in life science? Where do I start with? Or are you starting with pre-service teacher where this is really their first time doing something like this, doing a curriculum like this, and who have not been in the classroom? So in-service teachers, we know, already have a really good foundation of classroom management, and so you're starting at a different space with in-service teachers than you are with pre-service teachers. So if you're working with pre-service teachers, you need to think about not only the unit, but also how do you help the teachers, these pre-service teachers, think about what teacher practices just in the classroom are they going to need? Managing students, organizing. So these are all pieces of information that need to be considered when you're doing your plan. So what Dr. Joe and I talked about is that we would have the groups, we would have you go in breakout groups for about 45 minutes and to work with your, I think it was by country, Joe, right? By region. And we want you to have conversations in those breakout rooms. We were gonna go for about 45 minutes, then we're going to come back. And it is going to be a dialogue. I don't want to be talking the whole time. I want it to be a dialogue of what are some things that you're seeing, some ideas that you're having, what are some questions that you still have, some things that you're still having challenges with. But before we go into the breakout rooms, I want to ask, what questions do you have about the planning outline? What questions do you have about health in our hands? As you have maybe been looking at the planning document and thinking about health in our hands, what questions have you come across? And does the planning document make sense? What questions do you have just about the planning document? And if you want, you can use the chat, that's fine. It is very quiet. I don't know if it makes sense what we're asking you to do. So in a sense, we're asking you to do what we would ask our teachers, in part, to think about when we do professional learning. We typically take some time during our session, to work as a group, the teachers work as a group, to think about how are they planning, to enact this with the students. And so we ask them to do maybe the first couple of days of lesson planning. What does day one look like? What are the goals for day one? So this is the same thing we're asking you to think about as you're thinking about working with your teachers, because I don't know your teachers. And that's what we tell our teachers. We don't know their students. You know your teachers better than we do. So what are the ways that you're thinking about supporting your teachers in utilizing the Health in Our Hands curriculum? Or if you're here but you're not using the Health in Our Hands curriculum, but what are pieces of it that you're thinking about using and modeling for teachers? And what are the goals that you want teachers to attain at the end of your session? Even if you're just working with the first session, what is the goal? What is it that you want teachers to come out with? So if no one has any questions, then I think we can go into the breakout rooms. Can you walk us through
Oh, there's a question.
quickly what you did with the teachers during those 2 days? Oh, okay. So I can share with you. Yes, I can show you, for example. One moment. Okay, so give me just one moment. So actually day one is not that different from what we did on the first day. So for example, this is from 2022, and I'm giving you 2022 because this past year we worked with teachers who had been with us for a while, so we skipped some pieces. But this would be, what I'm putting in the chat would be, for example, what we did day one with our teachers. So you'll see in the slides that I shared with you that so we have two units. One is the diabetes unit. And the next unit after that, that the teachers, that some of our middle school teachers do for the 8th grade is substance use disorder. And that builds on ideas of the brain reward system, and it introduces natural selection. So those, we have the teachers together for these sessions because they're middle school. So you'll notice that there are some slides that focus on the driving question board of diabetes. And then there's also the substance use disorder slides. So this is day one, but you'll see on slide, where did it go? On slide 4, that those are basically the 4 days that we have with the teachers, the 2 full days, day 1 and day 2. And then they typically begin unit enactment. And then we have day 3 is usually after they've been enacting the unit for, although this is August, teachers typically don't start enacting the unit until probably mid-September. And so then we have day 3, which is after they've done usually learning sets 1, 2, and 3. And the focus is on simulations. And then day 4 is usually on the community action research projects. That's where students are developing their own research.
Consuelo, what do you mean simulation?
Yes. I'm sorry?
What do you mean by simulations?
Oh, so in the unit, if you go to the whole unit in learning set 3 and in no, sorry, in learning set 4 and in learning set 5, there are computer simulations that the students use, and one of them in learning set 5 is on sand rats, and it's a little bit complicated. And so we usually spend part of the day looking at the simulation, because we also model structured and open, oh my gosh, what's the other one? Oh, sorry, structured, guided, and open inquiry. So we help the teachers with those, that's the idea, is that teachers begin to understand what structured, guided, and open inquiry is using the simulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So what are some other questions that you have about this? Does this, well, actually, my question is, does looking at what our day 1, for example, looks like and giving you this idea of big picture agenda, Does that help you think about how you might use that template that Dr. Joe gave us to think about your own learning goals for your groups? Oh, and I'm sorry, so you also, the question was, did you go through all the learning activities? So we go through all of the big learning activities. So while we don't go through each learning set in detail, we do have the teachers go through, for example, how we did the driving question board. That on day one, we typically go through the driving question board and the modeling, which is all of learning set 1. On day 2, we typically go through, there's a lab that we do that is through the science takeout kits, and we do the pedigree, because those are really big ideas that we think it's important for teachers to engage as learners with, and then we debrief. So we really go through, for example, the kit. Students are collecting data, and so we know that students have a hard time. Then the collecting data is the fun part, but then analyzing that data, so making the graphs, and really looking at and delving into what is the data telling us. So that we really focus on for day 2, along with the pedigree, where students are delving into the ideas, the middle school level ideas, usually for the first time with genetics. So they do they actually do a simulation there, but it's with beads to develop a pedigree, and students then understand the randomness of how genes are inherited. And so they are able to answer the question of, why is it that Monique may be the only person in her family who has diabetes? So again, students are creating this pedigree, but it's data. So we're asking them to look at data, analyze data, and then delve into what that data mean. So we do that with the teachers. So we don't go through every single piece of the learnings of the unit, but we do go through those big pieces. And part of our discussions is having teachers look at the outline of how each learning set looks. So there's materials that teachers can see what the front matter of what's going to happen in this learning set. So we will talk through things like that.
It's well, there's another question in the chat.
Okay. Let's see, thanks so much. Really helpful. Did participating teachers implement the whole unit with their students in September? Yes, so the teachers did the complete unit.
But not in September. It takes them within
Oh,
1 month.
oh, yeah, sorry. So this, we do tell the teachers that this unit, it takes typically a semester to do if you're going to include doing the community action research projects. And that's where the students are now, we move the students to a point where students ask their own research question, and then they develop the tools to collect data, and they analyze the data. And so if they go through the whole unit, which includes for us a community action research project, that typically takes a whole semester. In day 4, the teachers shared what their students did in learning set 7, or it was their work as participating teachers. Oh, sorry, I'm not sure if I understand that question. In day 4, the teachers shared what their students did in learning set 7.
The community action projects.
Right, so here, because what we find is that in middle school, the teachers have been, well, because we're working with in-service teachers, many of the teachers have not done or it's been a long time since they were in college and did any kind of like scientific research. And so Day 4 really focuses on supporting the teachers to support the students to do this research, because students are doing their own research now, and so the focus is really on supporting the teachers about what this looks like. What does this look like in your classroom to do your own research with your students? And so typically, so we also, so as not to overwhelm, teachers typically do a whole class research. So for example, some of the research questions that students come up with, they did, how does, so one of the questions was something like, how does exercise affect my well-being? And so they created a whole research project. So based on what they had learned in the unit itself, the students used those ideas to ask this research question, and then they said, okay, so we need to, one of the things we encourage the teachers to do, and we help them, is to find an expert, let's say in exercise. So they go out to the, we encourage them to seek people maybe out in the immediate community. So maybe like a nurse could come and talk to the students about exercise. So the students create an interview protocol to interview the school nurse about why is exercise important, what are some of the benefits. And then students sometimes may also create a tool to interview family members. How much do you exercise every day? When you exercise, do you feel better? So in that session 4, we really work with the teachers on how to support students to create the tools. Then when they collect the data, how do you help the students analyze the data? And then at the end, how do you have students report that data? So that's what that day 4 really is about. And Nathan, excuse me. I'm sorry, I'm from Malaysia, I'm totally new. Here, please guide me. Nathan. Yeah, we may need to take a moment, maybe after, to kind of bring you up to speed, Nathan, and welcome. We're glad that you're here. So the next question is, did they bring their students with them on day 4? Oh, okay, so no. Day 4 is just about supporting the teachers to do research with their students. But after students do their after research question and they do their study, we have them prepare. We also have a PowerPoint that helps the students prepare a poster board or a presentation by PowerPoint. And then we actually have what we call a health summit, where we invite community members and we invite family members, and the students present their work, just like a poster conference. We have students present their work at this health summit, and that's where we have the adults asking. We even have guides for the family members or the community members that come. And there's different questions that we ask them to talk to the students, so they engage the students in dialogue about their research. So it's a really great experience for students. So right, so day 4 is only about getting teachers ready to do the research with their students. And then after that is when we help the teachers plan for this health summit, where students are presenting their work out to the community or even within their schools. We've had teachers plan a health summit in the school where they bring other grades, and the students who have done the diabetes unit present their findings to other grades. I'm glad that was helpful. If you have any other questions about that, those were really good questions to ask. Thank you. So does this help? You think about how you might do your planning for with your teachers? Okay, so if there's no more questions, then I would like us to go into the breakout rooms. And I'd like you to work with your colleagues on your plan for your teachers, thinking about your audience. So I see that the breakout rooms have been created. Yes, so I would like everyone, so let's see, we're at 7:37. So 45 minutes is what? At 8:15, is that right? 8:15, 8:20, 8:20.
8:20,
So
8:25,
I'd like, I'm sorry, Joe.
it's more like
What?
8:25, but
Okay, so let's do this then at 8:25. I would like people to come back and we're going to discuss. And give feedback to and ask questions about your plans. So everyone should be going into a breakout room. And working with your colleagues to think about, even if it's just day one, that's fine. But the point is, we want you all to be working together to create your plan. Because you know your teachers and your audience better than we do. Okay, so at this point, everyone should be joining their breakout rooms, and if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We're more than happy to talk through these pieces.
Excuse me, may I ask the quick question? Should we fill out the framework that you gave to us or that Joe gave us? Which one? Like
Uh,
the framework you gave, you just gave us
hour, this hour, this hour, this
more
hour,
in depth, right?
but not there yet. First, you have to figure out what's your goal, and then how are you going to accomplish your goal? That's what I would say, but we could certainly
Right.
change.
And so I think that if you're looking at, let's say the learning goals for, again, you don't have to have the whole thing laid out, but let's start with the first day. So what are the learning goals, let's say, for that first day? So you can even look at, this is what we do for session one. So what would be, if your goal, or if one of the ideas is to maybe just focus on the driving question board, what are the goals? That's what we do for the first day, right? So when on our first time together, we did like a quick overview of the unit. And then we really focused on having you experience what was the driving question board. And so if that's what you want to focus on, what are the goals? Where are your teachers? And that's why I asked, are you working with in-service teachers or are you working with pre-service teachers? Where are they? So then you can say, okay, this is my goal for this, even if it's just the first part of a first session. What are the goals for that part? So you can break it down. Maybe you don't have a big vision yet, but just in the practice of what is my goal, can you write that goal down? How am I going to meet that goal? So again, always having in mind, who's my audience and what expertise do they come with? So yes, I'm sorry, that's a really long way of saying, use the planning example that Joe gave you, but thinking about the health in our hands and where your audience is and how you're going to support them to get to where you want them to go. What other questions do you have?
think we should go in the breakout rooms, Consuelo, otherwise we're gonna run out of time.
Perfect, okay, so. Breakout rooms, please, I think everyone has been assigned to a room, so please join your breakout rooms. And come back with questions, if you're still not clear, come back with questions, so at 25 after. Let's come back, please. So Nathan has a question about where Malaysia should join.
Yeah, actually, he can join in the
Room
Thailand
5?
as well,
Oh, okay.
or he can choose
Um,
whichever room that he want.
Oh, because there's room 5 there. I thought we can go there.
Uh, room 5 just in case there are more. I think so far let focus on just only the 4 room first. Because I believe in the Thailand room maybe not so many people.
If we've gone the breakout rooms, there's still 21 people who haven't gone. I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to put them manually to check.
Thank you, Dr. Murray.
I can help. Okay. Yeah. I think all aside.
Yes?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there still 3 people or?
It's interesting, maybe something, yeah, I saw nothing in the list, right? But here, yeah, like maybe they have to click first, right? Maybe they haven't clicked yet, even though we assign them to. Right, am I right, Burin?
Yeah. Yes, they have to click join. Otherwise, it will not put them
They
automatically.
will, yeah, they
Because
will show.
yeah, I set the option that they have to choose manually.
Yeah.
So they have to click join in order to go into that room.
So there's Kim. Who
Uh,
doesn't, right?
yeah, I think maybe I think he be from Vietnam and Mr. or Miss Kim, could you click join, please? Are you still there? But the other from Kazakh, I couldn't. Yeah, I don't know his or
That
her
may be
name.
Darin. I'm not sure it's Darin or not.
Darin.
Yeah.
But Darin, I saw Darin name. Really? Or is
Yeah.
that Darin?
I'm not sure. I just guess.
Okay, just get. Let me see. I think Darin is
Oh,
in his room.
maybe they went now.
Yeah, I think they are gone now. Yeah.
Oop, there's someone go to room 5. Let me see.
Well, I think he or she might be from Indonesia, do you think? That one?
I'm not sure. I'm
But
not
it's
sure between Indonesia or Malaysia.
okay. Can be either, right?
Okay, she from Indonesia. I will move to Thailand.
Okay. You don't want to move them to her to Indonesia?
Uh,
Excuse me.
yeah, maybe because Indonesia now just only 4 people.
But
Right, I think it's just us now, right?
Yep.
yeah, I think that if you go to Thailand, Prachayapong, I think he the one who asked a lot of questions.
No, that was really good. I'm glad that
Mm.
he asked those questions.
Yeah, I think if we go to his room, maybe we can find out, and then because he has to conduct in English, and then I think we will find out their progress maybe a little while, and I think he will be able to share what his plan is.
I hope so.
Mm.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that was helpful.
Because now he's speaking in his group
Let's see.
and sharing something, right? And Darren sharing something.
Yes, it looks like he's talking.
And
Good.
Murthy. Maybe at 8 o'clock we can visit each room.
You want us to go into the rooms?
Yeah, maybe maybe at 8 o'clock. I'd like to see what they have done in the past 20 minutes. About that?
But
Mm.
We should go into different rooms.
Yeah.
So who wants to go into what room?
there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms.
I'll drop into Kazakhstan. How's that?
Okay,
Mm.
I'll drop into Thailand. That's where
Yeah.
the person. I'll
Okay,
drop
I
into
will
the
follow
Thailand and
Consuelo
others.
so I can record the session.
Mhm.
There's a big group in Cambodia.
Mm.
That we're going to. Oh, are we going now? I thought we were waiting till 8.
He's can't wait. Yeah, you can go now and then I will follow him then. So Burin will follow you. I will follow Joe. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah, Joe
Let
already
me
in
check.
Kazakh.
Okay, I will join.
okay, I'm going to join. Uh-oh, where did that one go? Oh,
Oh,
Thailand.
now
Okay, wait,
the Malaysian group
okay.
moved to room 5.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm gonna go now. I'll join that.
Okay. I see you soon.
Two days, right?
So the goal, um,
Of
I
this
think
PD, and then we have to like talk about how to know that the pre-service teacher achieve the goal.
yeah, I think I have these 3 questions answered before coming to this, but I'm not sure if it makes sense.
Yeah.
I will share this with you. So
Okay.
the goal, first of all, I think it's the aim to equip our students, our pre-service teachers
Mhm.
with the skills to use the CR approach in the classroom based on the the model from the module. And I hope that this PD would get them prepared for practical application of the CI in classroom. And I think this will come on day 2 when we start thinking how are we going to localize the unit, how are we going to adapt the unit in the classroom. And then I think on day 3 is going to be I don't know, maybe a mock teaching day that they can start thinking. They can start or
Yeah. For me,
to
yeah, for me, the bullet number 2 of the goal is seem like not actual goal, because it seemed like a process that you had done to prepare your student. I mean,
Mhm.
because the verb is prepare, right? So
Mhm.
when we talk about how do we know that our pre-service teacher accomplish this goal, which mean that at the end of the prepare, what do you expect your student to achieve, like application of CER in classroom?
Okay. So I will try to break down from this one. I think from day 2,
Okay.
I may move this one down to day 3. So day 2, I just want them to be able to choose one part of the unit and execute it as described in the unit. So I think the achievement is for them to execute the learning activity among the peers. Then day 3 is going to be the day of adaptation. If they
okay.
yeah. And then the adaptation on day 3, I think the accomplishment would be for them to be able to design a lesson, a CER-based lesson using driving question, thinking of the central phenomena that they want to bring in the class. So
Okay.
yeah, on the first day is something like the introduction day or the introduction day. The second day is the
Like a practice day, right?
practice structured practice, because basically they just follow, they just pick part of the unit and follow the design there for them to how to ask questions, how to collect all the ideas from the students, how to help students summarize the idea, develop the mental model, something like that.
Okay.
And on day 3, it's something like adaptation day, where they detach themselves a bit from health in our hands unit, but use the approach in there and to think how they can apply the CR approach in their lessons.
Okay. Yeah.
And then in the afternoon, it would be for them to design a lesson, a CR lesson.
So you plan to do your PD with your pre-service teacher for 3 days, right? Or 2 days and a half? Or
I'm thinking of what I can actually have a 5-day, a full week training with them.
okay.
I'm actually thinking of day 4 to let them practice or execute, the plan, and then we have feedback in the afternoon. So which
Okay.
the unit I think they can fully adopt. Okay. So this one, mock teaching, micro teaching. Micro teaching.
Micro teaching with their peer, or you find
with their peers.
someone who there to learn with your students.
No, I don't think this 4 or 5 days I would invite others. I think it's going to be the group of 15 pre-study teachers who have different backgrounds.
It's
We
gonna
have math.
be fun. So to be student.
These 3 people are going to work hard, but but yeah, I think the model is developed for them, so they are going to work a little bit harder. But these guys, they will have to do interaction, we have to do water quality as well. We have student in chemistry. But yeah, we use, if the other team members agree to use this model, we can have the same flow.
Yeah. Okay.
And then micro teaching with peers using the selected activity. So basically, learning set 1 or 2. Otherwise, the later parts of the unit, I think it relies on what is collected from the earlier parts of the unit. And
so what is
then
the driving questions for the day 2 that will make the pre-service teachers try to make sense the activities, and then
I think so. You mean the driving question for the PD, right? Or the driving question for teaching?
or as I understand, so So counselor, so I just confused as well. So when we look deeply for this, so we should ask the driving questions for the activities or for the PD.
Oh, that's a good question. So, we actually have a driving question, so the slides that I showed you were also for teachers that we had been working with before, but we do also usually do a driving question actually for the teachers. And that helps get at a little bit of their understanding and what questions they have. So, for example, a big idea that we have with project-based learning is that students are figuring out, right? So it flips the idea of the role of the teacher as more of a guide than just standing and talking to them. And so the idea is that students are figuring out something. Or not the students, well, yes, the students are figuring out something. So one of the things that we ask the teachers is, how do we ask the driving question is, how do I support teachers, sorry, how do I support my students in figuring out? So what are teacher moves that teachers need to think about in supporting students to figure out? And we just say figure out because they're figuring out a lot of things, right? They're figuring out phenomena. I mean, that's the main thing they're figuring out is the phenomena that they're learning about. And so we do a driving question with the teachers and we have them go through the practice of asking questions. Because for some, it's a flip because teachers are not used to having students ask questions. And so it's also helping the teachers to formulate their own questions so that when they go through that process with their students, they're able to help their students formulate questions, because that really is it's a tricky thing. And we have students who say, wait, you're the teacher, you're supposed to ask me questions. And we say, but wait, what are questions? You just experienced this phenomena. What questions do you have? What do you see? What does that make you think? What does it make you wonder? And so helping the teachers help the students go through that process of asking questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So in here, Ajahn Prachayapung, which means that we have to ask the driving questions for the PD, right?
Right, so you may formulate a question for your teacher. So let me see if I can get you the exact question that we asked. Sorry, one moment.
Formulating researchable questions. So for the first day, so you plan to do the formative assessment. So for this is to make sure that your PD is success, or just give them the theory of assessment and then focus
Right.
on
Yeah,
what
Mhm.
is and how to do the formative assessment with the activities.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so what is
I,
your
I
focus?
think this one, the focus is the introduction of the learning module to them, the introduction of the new way to do assessment, to use more of formative assessment, to use more of, student narratives in the group, and how they are going to, to do this sort of thing. So I'm not going to assess them, and I'm not going to assess the teachers at this point. Yeah, this is the idea, the introduction, the first introduction, and in the second half of the day, again, it's going to be the introduction of the module. And driving question I put here is the driving question of lesson lesson set 1. So in this module is asking what actually affects the health of Monique. Monique is the character in the learning module. So I will just use an example of the module to get the teachers, my participants, to ask question, and from the question that they ask, which questions that are researchable, and this can help them see the direction of the lesson.
Mhm. So let me ask the question. I don't remember the how many labs in this learning unit.
How many labs?
Labs, yes.
So there's one in learning set 2 where they there's one lab that has 2 parts, and one is looking at insulin levels. No, sorry, sugar in
Sugar.
the blood.
Mm.
Right. And right, they carry out blood tests to figure out how glucose levels, right, indicate the condition of type 1 or type 2 diabetes. So that's the only, let's say, kind of formal lab, but students are doing other things to figure out the different pieces.
Mm.
But I will say, one thing that you have on your plan that I think is important is our teachers often ask us, how do they grade students? That's a really important thing for teachers, is how do I give students grades? And so on your plan, thinking about even asking the teachers as you're going through the sessions, what different ways that they see that they can use these pieces of the unit to assess students. Because there's various ways, right? There's various ways that we can assess students. So for our unit, we have actually created, and at the end of each learning set, we have an assessment that we've created. So that's a more formal way of assessing them. But there are many other ways that teachers need to talk through that they can assess students. So they can use their models. They create a model also at the end of the learning set. And typically at the end of the learning set, there's some kind of, you were talking about focusing on the CER, claim evidence reasoning. There's also opportunities for students to do that. And so there are different ways, even if it's participation. Are students asking questions in that first piece when they're doing the driving question board? That's an activity that teachers can assess how well, what kinds of questions are students asking? Are they having trouble asking questions? How do I help them with that? But it can be a participation grade, for example. But it is a space that, and it is a process that teachers sometimes struggle with. So just so that you know that might be something, they say, I don't know what to give them grades on. And so maybe that's a really good place to have a discussion. What are things that we could grade them on?
Right. I'm not sure how can I find the example of the assessment or the rubric of this unit?
So, right. So, let me get back to you on that, because currently how we have it set up is, it's in a Google form,
Right.
but it's because we're collecting data.
Okay.
So let me make a note of that and I will get back to you.
Thank you very much. So
Can you do me a favor? Will you send me an email so that then I can respond
sure.
back to you? And I can also share it with the rest, but just so that, and I'll put my I put it in the chat, my email. So that, because that's gonna take me a moment, because we're also in the process of revising those assessments.
Oh, thank you. That's great. So I will so assessment. So coming back to Ajahn Pachari's question. So I think the first one is going to be at the introduction first. And I'm sure that in the afternoon when the teachers get to know the learning module, get to see how it works, they will come up with, you know, the assessment process as Consuelo has just pointed out. So I think maybe on the second day when they think of the practicality of the learning module in their own context, like mapping the standard and see which parts of the unit they think they can fully run in the classroom and how they are going to assess, how they are going to grade the students. And then we can show more example of the rubrics and the assessment protocol in this part. What do you think?
So I have a question, is the idea that teachers will use parts of the unit, not the whole unit?
Right.
Okay,
Right. So yeah, the context is that we are our participants are pre-service teachers, and
okay,
the constraint that when after the training they are going to do internship in the school, and we are aware that the number of hours to fully implement the whole module might not be practical in the first
right,
of the internship. So
right,
but we still would like them to see how they can integrate as much as they think possible in the classroom. That's why we have day 2 to get them think in this aspect.
right. And so you would say that that initially day 1, the goal of part 1 for day 1 is really that the pre-service teachers really grasp the idea of the 3 dimensions.
Right.
So that there are these 3 dimensions, what are those pieces?
That's right.
And then the goal for the afternoon for day 1 would be for the teachers to, to get maybe an overview of health in our hands, but also for them to experience experience learning set 1, but so that they can possibly see how the 3 dimensions are coming together in an actual activity.
Right.
So it might be interesting to ask the teachers, can they identify, or what dimensions can they identify after having gone through maybe this sample teach? So are they able to identify the practice of asking questions? Are they able to identify the cross-cutting concept of patterns? In learning set 1, the focus isn't necessarily on a disciplinary core idea, because we're just introducing the phenomenon, right? So students are just trying to ask questions about what they're seeing. And then they are looking for patterns. They're seeing, are there patterns to the questions that I'm asking? So I think those are important ideas that you want to see if the pre-service teachers are noticing those things.
Right.
Yeah, Dr. Prachevong, I just curious, do your student like a hands-on practice laboratory by themselves, or they just look through and read and then reflect and discuss.
You mean on day 2, if we pick the sugar level lab,
Mhm.
it's possible to use that in the training, right?
I'm not sure that because I think sometimes it's difficult for pre-service teacher to understand the lab and then go back like a step back and think about how to ask the questions with their students. So it might be good if them have a chance to do a laboratory like act as a learner and then walk through the whole lab. I mean, I'm not
Mhm.
sure that how many labs you said. It's just like a walk through and then when you go back and discuss, it might be yeah
Right. I think
meaningful for them and then yeah.
I think that can take place on day 2, but instead of letting them choose which learning activity that they would like to execute, maybe we can just choose set 2, this one, right?
Mm.
Or for them to carry out blood test to figure out. And I think it's the opportunity to start learning how to construct scientific explanation as well.
Okay, yeah, good. So, counselor, let me ask about the detail in the direction of the blood test. So, do they have to like mean to how to say it that we use the needle put in our finger and make our blood is so it real is it real blood
No,
from the
no.
Mm.
So the lab it's simulated. So the students,
Oh.
right, because of safety hazards, right? So we don't have the students actually prick their
Mm.
blood. So what we've done is we build it into a story that
Mhm.
Monique has to go to the doctor and they want to do this test on her to see what are her levels of glucose in her blood. So she does where she has to, well, the person has to drink a sugary drink
Mhm.
and then over every 30 minutes, over a certain amount of time, they test the blood and they measure. So their students are given what a normal
Mhm.
person, how their body would react, and then they're given this other person where they have to map out, they have to graph where first they do a test with some pipettes. And with the colors that they're getting, they have to compare that to, or they have to map that out on the graph and they compare it to a normal person. Well,
Oh.
normal sounds terrible, but anyway, what somebody who doesn't have diabetes. And so students are collecting this data, but it's already a made kit where it's simulated blood, basically.
Okay, thank you very much. I asked because when I was in the bachelor degree, so I have to diet. I mean, after 8 o'clock, and then in
Right.
morning, we have to like make our blood into the tube and then to do the lab. Okay, it's more complex, but it's not. It's a simulation, right? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But that's a great, I mean, I think that's a great experience that you can share with them. You know, that so in the United States, but diabetes unfortunately has become very prevalent among younger and younger groups of people. And so some of the students in our class have family members, they themselves might have it, more than anything, we find that they have family members who they know who have diabetes, so they know the process. So also giving students, and even your pre-service teachers, looking at what's their pre-knowledge, right? What prior knowledge are they coming in about this thing? And sharing some of those, I mean, it depends on the how comfortable people feel, but they can, you know, share their experiences with it. And those are really powerful moments too for the students, to share experiences and that prior knowledge.
Okay.
But in this case,
Yeah.
the lab, and what I like about the lab is that it actually encompasses many of the practices. So students are needing to collect data, they're analyzing the data through tables and through graphs, because we also find that students have a hard time taking data from a table to a graph. And then we're asking them to analyze that data through various questions so that we understand that they're seeing the patterns. So that's again a cross-cutting concept, that they're needing to see the patterns, and they're also seeing cause and effect. So what's happening when we give somebody this to drink, what's happening to their blood sugar over time. And then students need to take that data that they've collected and analyzed, and they need to be able to put it into a scientific explanation using claim, evidence, and reasoning. And so, and then part of that is that they're also presenting it. So that's another practice, is how are they communicating that information? So it's really nice that it's a lab that asks them to do all of these things. So having pre-service teachers also go through that process is a nice thing, because then they see it as a learner and they see you modeling it as the teacher and you're asking them questions, and they're having to analyze and think about it.
Okay. Yeah.
So based on your experience, do you think doing this with pre-service teachers or teachers can be done within 3 hours or half a day?
I think, I mean, it depends on how deeply you want to go into this.
Students.
But you still look very energetic. Yeah, we're full of energy. Yes.
She get the good feedback from Joe. That's why she's very positively.
Yeah, yeah, it makes you smile. Okay. I think.
Consuelo, if you are saying something, you are muted.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you. I was talking away. I'm sorry. I didn't see that I was muted. I was with the Thai group, and we were just talking about one of the days of professional learning, and we were talking about the sample teach that we do typically on day 2, which is the simulated lab, where students are looking at glucose in the blood for a person who well, they're trying to figure out if this person has diabetes. But we were talking about how pre-service teachers might experience that as learners, and what that helps them see, like as far as the practices that are going on of collecting data, analyzing data, but also some of the cross-cutting concepts like looking for patterns and looking at cause and effect, and how they're able to present that through a scientific explanation using CER. So there's all these different pieces just in that lab. And so that might be an important experience for pre-service teachers to experience, is actually going through the lab to experience it as a learner, but also thinking about it as with a teacher lens of how this might look when they are teaching that learning set. So anyway, that's because I put a note, I put something in the chat about how long does it typically take. So it typically takes us about an hour to go through the sample teach. And then another hour it's really important to debrief with the teachers. What did they notice? What did they, what does that make them wonder? What are some challenges that they foresee when they do this in their own classroom? That's a really important piece of this planning and learning for teachers who are experiencing this, is that time to debrief. So anyway, I wanted to come back. I wanted to see how did it go? How did the conversations go in the breakout rooms? What questions came up as a result of being in your breakout rooms? And Joe, I don't know if you had anything to say about the group you were in.
Well, I thought I was in the Kazakhstan group, and I thought they made very good progress. So I was going to suggest that maybe they could share what they've done to show that as an example of what we'd like to see. What I particularly liked about their work, and I'd like to get your take on it as well, Consuela, is they've actually modified it somewhat. They have adopted it to their culture, right? So they found a young man, Nail, that actually has diabetes as well, type 1, not type 2, but nonetheless, he has diabetes. And so I was pretty excited about they're trying to adapt it to Kazakhstan, because this was a Kazakhstan young man.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'd like to
So
see.
I thought it would be great if they could share their plans.
Yes.
So good evening or good morning, everyone, again. Let me just a little bit tell about our plans. So this is our plan for conducting lessons about health in our hands. We divided it on some parts. Part 1, this is not goals. We will write goals later, but it's just like a topic. So first is discussion of the relevance of studying the health status of the population of the Republic of Kazakhstan in our country. So analyzing and interpreting of statistical data. We find some newspaper. It's from UNICEF, how adolescent with diabetes live in Kazakhstan. It's a boy. His name is Nail Zakiev. He has diabetes type 1. Yeah, here you can see some. I forget.
Patch.
Patch. Yeah. So here is some information about diabetes in Kazakhstan and about our hero. For example, it's doubled in the past 10 years. Yeah, with over, we counted it's 2% of our population. But we think we will find the previous amount of number of people who has a diabetes, and we will check the dynamics of changing. So this is the first lesson. Next one is exploring the context and understanding of childhood and adolescent diabetes. Our aim is teachers will be able to explain the similarities and differences between two types of diabetes. I mean, not type 1, type 2, it's about childhood and adolescent. Or maybe we will add I think we can add differences between two types of diabetes here, maybe in the first lesson, because not everybody knows about it. For example, me. So studying an article about a teenager using various forms of problem presentation, it's like tips for us as a trainer, how to prepare a presentation about this lesson. Then developing understanding of the causes of diabetes, learning new information. Here we have modeling of diabetes using cloud-based softwares. Here's a lot of softwares, including Sage Modeler, which is trainer can choose which is more convenient or more comfortable. Then generating ideas. FILA, it's a technique like facts, ideas, learning objectives, and I forget the A. It's some technique for generating ideas. I guess it's somewhere here. Yeah, facts, ideas, learning issues, action plan. How to solve it. Then formulating questions. This is like driving questions. But actually it's translated by Google, so we need to check firstly. Because we work not in English.
So are the students formulating those questions, or?
No, this is the questions for discussion. It's more about it.
Okay.
With our listeners. Or since our listeners are teachers, in-service teachers, they can use these questions as students. Action plan. Also, again, questions for discussion with students. But here, questions for like more about solution. Problem solving. And finally, we think we can build a genetic tree for our participants.
Interesting.
Using some programs.
Darin, maybe
Or
you
including
show
AI.
this instrument for building. Mhm.
Okay, I can, but I have never used it before. So which one is in?
You must use a full link, but you.
Okay, this one.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I can write the names, right?
Yes.
And do they have diabetes, right?
Not. This not
Okay.
diabetes.
Okay, just names.
It is only example.
Okay.
This explanation for student, для кого программ, вот преимущества, как установить.
Okay. And it shows advantage of it can show you your genetic tree, and you can find who had not find, maybe you will see who had maybe diabetes, and how did you get, for example, if it's inborn.
That's really interesting. Is there I need to look at that. That's very interesting. I haven't heard of this tool. And so, what is it that you want students to, or sorry, the teachers to do with this?
They can create their own genetic tree.
the students can, each student can create their own genetic tree.
Yeah. It's just one example. I guess
Mhm.
we can find another techniques or another websites, I mean, including AI, artificial intelligence.
No, that's an interesting tool.
I forget the some AI website which can help you to create your genetic tree. That's it, briefly. Here are some techniques or instruments for mind maps.
Mhm.
It is
But
free.
firstly,
It is free.
yeah, but you need to register, I guess. That's it.
Okay. So the idea is that taking the ideas from Health in Our Hands, I really like that from what we've created, but making it specific to your communities and your culture.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the exciting thing about this is how there's a person in the video in the unit that looks like them, right? So that's a Kazakhstan young man. And I think that's really a wonderful way of getting kids to see how important this is and studying it, right? So if you can tailor it to your own environment, I think that's great, right? So this is what you want to do to really get kids engaged in the materials, if you can really contextualize it to their life. So I think that's one of the really strong points about it.
I agree. Yeah.
At least I can call my father. He has diabetes.
Right, and so I think that would also be a really, that's also a really important piece of the units, is that also pulling out what's the prior knowledge that students or your teachers already come with. Like, what do they know about it? Because that's a place to start, right? And then actually presenting them with Nael, who is someone in their community or someone that looks like them, who has this experience. That's a really powerful idea for students. It's not someone that they see somewhere else that they don't have any connection to. I think that's really great. There was started looking at the very well thought out plan indeed. Thank you for sharing this. Please leave out.
Also, it's not just a story what we created. It's a true story from UNICEF site.
Exactly,
Yeah,
and that's why, right?
Yeah, learners will believe it.
Right, no, I really agree. So
Relevant.
the young girl in ours is also someone who is actually someone who exists. And so students are able to kind of see that and say, oh, this is a young person like me who has this, who is in this situation. So yes, that's very powerful. And students, so I will say this, which really surprised us, is we were collecting data from a group of students who were high school students. So they were juniors and seniors, so they would have been 17, 18, and students remember Monique, the case study person who they hadn't seen since they were probably 11 or 12. So this is like 5 or 6 years later, and they remember this person. That's how powerful it is. We ask them, do you remember doing a unit with your teacher about diabetes? And they, Monique, we remember Monique, and we remember how they talked about how genetically, how the family tree, how they inheritance and how you get genes from your parents. And it was amazing that so many years later, they still remembered it, and they remembered Monique, like specifically, they remembered Monique. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Will you be sending that to Joe and I to look at?
Yeah, we can send
What
by
about any other?
by mail
sorry, go
or
ahead.
on chat box. Which one is better? In chat box,
I'm sorry?
others can see. It's
You know,
more
I think it's
convenient.
best if you put it in a folder.
In a
Right, so you
folder.
could put down, you could make within our folder, you can make another folder and call it Kazakhstan Health in Our Hands.
Okay.
And then other people from the group can go and look at it.
So what did other groups, I think our person in Thailand had to leave. That's who left a message. Were there other groups that can share? And I really liked the Thailand group. They were also thinking about how they were breaking this down into some kind of smaller chunks and thinking about a day-to-day thing. So I think it was a really good start to a plan. And with any of the other groups had anything to share with us?
For hello, I am Sam from Cambodia.
Hi, Sam.
Yeah. For the Cambodian teams, we don't really have the idea to get started because we just collecting ideas from the team members to draft, and hopefully we going to finish by the end of the week. So sorry that we cannot have something to share for today.
No, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
And we are going to put in the folder, drive folders for Cambodians. Yeah. To get you have some comments on the PD plans. Thank you.
okay, and did your group have any questions or anything in the discussions that came up in your breakout group?
Yeah, sure. Our teams has come up with the day ones. So the first is building the community. So maybe we don't have time to get back to the document that you shared before. So we get no ideas about the building teams before we get into the driving question.
Okay.
Yeah. So could you take a bit time to clarify us about the building communities?
So do you mean
Yeah.
building communities with building a community with the teachers? Is that what you mean, Sam, or?
Yeah, we have no idea about that because we just formed the teams between teachers in our institutions as well as with the teachers from the attached schools to form the team. So we don't know if this is the building communities or we have to connect to the others or not.
What do you mean by the others?
The others like communities in our locals.
Oh, I see, I see,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So I guess my advice would be to first think about what resources does your immediate community have? So, for example, we begin at the school.
Mm-hmm.
So are there resources? So in Michigan, for example, some of our schools have a nurse that's on campus. That's there at the school. That's a resource that the students and the teachers can use in thinking about looking at things like diabetes or health. Another resource might be students also eat typically breakfast and lunch at school. And so there's a person who is within the community that's like the nutrition person. So is there someone there that you might be able to tap in as a resource for the teachers and the students?
Oh, yes.
So those are two places to start. So with our project, we have been working with the community for over 10 years now, but with this curriculum for about 10 years. And so out of that, we've also created as a separate part of Health in Our Hands, there's a partnership that brings in outside community members. So we have a hospital system. We have people within a hospital system that are working with us. We have something called, it's the Flint. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't think of the name right now. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. They focus on nutrition in the Flint community. And so that's a person who is in our partnership who has come to the classrooms and spoken with the students about thinking about health, both physically and nutritionally. And so those are communities, but I would say at the beginning for teachers, and to not overwhelm them, that maybe you support teachers to look within the school community if there are resources.
Oh, I say yes. In Cambodia, particularly, we don't have that kind of connecting with the others, like to build the communities and to get them to help for implementing our trainings, or we have that kind of the curriculum that particularly involves with the communities or with the experts on the health like that. But
Right.
we are just starting, because in these years in our school campus we established the health, like the health people or health centers in the schools where we can help the student teachers and teachers in the schools too. So that is a good
That's
start, I think.
great. Yeah, it's always great to look within to see what rich resources do you have within, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, I would, I'm sorry, I thought that, I don't know how to pronounce, Pratachayapong, I thought he had to leave. I think he had to leave because I was going to ask him, Dr. Kesra to share, but I think he left.
He did leave. He said in his message that he had to leave
Right.
early.
Oh, okay.
And he will.
Right, but perhaps we can, Dr. Kesra or Dr. Bruni, maybe you can send a message that he could also create a folder to share his work. I don't have his work to click on so that we could share what we worked on. But I don't know if Pachari, if you had anything you wanted to share about our breakout, when I went into your breakout group?
I'm sorry, I have nothing to share, so sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Well, I think you had some really good questions and points that you were sharing, but I think it would be easier if we had the table that we were working on. So maybe he can share that in a folder.
So Consuelo, I
Yeah.
have to leave in a minute because I have another meeting I have to get to.
Okay,
So I just want to set the stage for tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to deal with interactions. So if, we now got an example. We're starting to get more and more examples of how to do this. So tomorrow would be great if people could work on interactions. We'll do a very similar process like we did today. We'll start off if you have questions, and then we'll go in the breakout rooms. But if people have things to share before that, that would be great. So if you work on your interaction plans and you have interaction plans to share, once again, what is your learning goal? How are you going to accomplish your learning goal? And how are you going to know that you accomplished it, right? Those are the three big aspects. Once we do that, then we can put it more into an hourly schedule, but we got to first get down what are our goals and how we're going to do it. So that's the plan for tomorrow. It's also the plan for Thursday, but Thursday will be water quality. So if you could work tomorrow, you're going to go to bed tonight, of course, but tomorrow during the day, you can maybe work on your interaction plans, and maybe there's some to share. If not, we will give you time, once again, 45 minutes, depending how many questions you have at the beginning. So I will, I unfortunately have to leave because I have to just set up another meeting. So it looks like we're making some good progress. There's some good discussions, and it's great to see some examples so that more people get more ideas about how they can go about doing this. I really want to encourage everybody. We've got that folder that really has a lot of rich resources in it from all three curricula that you can use and go back and look at, the PowerPoints, the materials themselves, etc. So anyways, I have to take off. I don't know if Kestra wants to say something, or is that what she came on? No.
No, I think, no.
Okay, well, I'm gonna take off. It's good seeing everybody, and I will see everybody bright and early tomorrow morning and your evening tomorrow. So I'm gonna go start my day at work. So talk to you later.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Joe. Have a good day.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Yes, so I would encourage you, and I really think that for the people who shared and the group that I was in, we had some really good discussions. So I really like that this is moving forward, and please continue to send pieces to Joe, and then he can share them with me, and we can look at them and give you feedback. We really want this to be productive for all of you, but again, and I know Joe is pushing back on this, we don't want to be here just talking at you the whole time. We want lively discussions, and we want to help move this forward for all of you. So having discussions on what you have questions on and what you want feedback on is really helpful. So I encourage you to continue in that direction.
Thank you, Consuela.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I know it's late for everyone, and we really appreciate you being here. So thank you. And I will see you
Tomorrow?
I'm not sure, Dr. Castro. No, I won't see you tomorrow. Is it
In
next
introduction?
week?
Oh,
Tomorrow is the introduction.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right,
Well,
interaction.
I think on
Interaction,
12, right? Maybe on 12.
Yeah, interaction.
I think on 12, right? February.
Yeah, I'll check. I'll let you know
Yeah.
again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's it.
so goodbye, everyone. Goodbye, Kesara.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Anthony.
Bye.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
And good night.
Have a good night.